Hello, everyone, and welcome to the summit. I am your host, Dr. MJ McConnor, and I'm super excited because I am here with Amy Waninger, who is the founder and CEO of Lead at Any Level. She's a speaker, consultant, coach, author, and entrepreneur who motivates CEOs to lead courageously and authentically. Amy is going to share why you should lean into your authenticity as an entrepreneur and how it has helped her as a business owner and CEO. Hello, Amy.
Hi, MJ. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to be with you today.
Likewise.
Thanks. So maybe we can start off, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you got on the entrepreneurial path and tell us a little bit about your business.
Sure. So it's kind of a long story, but I'll try to make it really short. When I went to college, I didn't know people who had gone to college, so I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I thought somewhere along the way that maybe I would go into civil rights law because I knew lawyers went to college and I was in college. So I had that in common with lawyers. And my senior year of college, I found out how much law school would cost. And it was a lot. And I found out what pro bono meant, and it meant not a lot. And I realized that I was not on the right path for me, for my future. Despite where my heart was, it just wasn't sustainable for me. So I went back, got a second degree in computer science, and worked in IT for about 20 years. When I was in a very large company and I kind of moved up in the ranks a little bit, in the management ranks there, they hired a chief diversity officer. And when I read about that department and what they were tasked with doing, I got really excited and tried to volunteer for everything I could. And I just showed up, probably to the point of annoying people, asking how I could help, what could I do to make things better. And I was given some work to do, and I got to lead a few things and whatever. But what I noticed was I kept asking, what can I do? I don't own HR policy. I don't have, I'm not the vice president of some huge department. What can I do to make a difference? And nobody really had a good answer for me. So I decided to spend some time thinking about that problem. And in 2018, I wrote a book called Network Beyond Bias, Making Diversity a Competitive Advantage for Your Career. And in that book, I talk about the flow of opportunity goes through our networks. And if we can change how we network and be more intentional, we can change the flow of opportunity to and from us. And I started speaking on that topic because it felt very relevant. I didn't hear a lot of other people talking about that. And eventually I ran out of days off to go speak at conferences. So I said, see ya, I'm going to go do this now because it seemed more meaningful and more aligned to my passions. And so that's what I've been doing full time since 2019. My company now, Lead at Any Level, we work with companies that promote from within, and we help them keep their employees and keep them engaged so they can see lower turnover costs and higher productivity. And we do that with assessment, advisory, and training services.
Got it. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I want to go back to something you said, because I know this happens for a lot of entrepreneurs, they may be working for another company and then they start doing speaking engagements or really start finding something that they love. And then it just kind of pulls them out of work more and more. And after a while, it's just like, okay, well, this is more in line with my values and my passion anyway. So I'm just going to go this path. And it sounds like it was a similar situation for you as well.
Yes. Yeah. And I think about, entrepreneurship is rough, right? There's ups and downs. There are days you wake up, you cannot wait to get started. That's most days. But then there are days when you think maybe I should just go back and get a job again.
Yes.
And every time I have those moments, I think about what that would be like for me at this point in my life, in my career. And I realize that I would still try to do this wherever I went, but I would just get in trouble for it. Right. And it's so much better for me to do this where I can be celebrated for it and do it in the right context and in the right places and with people who really want to engage in the work that I'm doing, rather than me leading a team in IT somewhere and like foisting it upon them and it's not my job, right? Because then I would just keep getting in trouble for being myself and not doing what they hired me to do. So I'm much better off doing what I'm doing the way I'm doing it.
Yes, yes. Now, speaking of being yourself, right?
Yes.
One of the reasons a lot of people enjoy being an entrepreneur is because they get to really flourish and be creative and do a lot of things that they couldn't necessarily do, in the workforce. When you're on someone else's clock, you have to do you have to do things the way they want it to be done. And I mean, that's just normal work culture.
Mhm.
But I can even say for me, it's been incredibly liberating to be like, you know what, I think I'm just going to wake up and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a live and I get to show my personality and I get to do some things that I probably couldn't do when I was working, in higher education. Just, I had to be mindful of, okay, I'm representing the company, but now I'm like, I own my own company. I can live and lead authentically. So can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about that and like what that's been like for you?
This is the journey. This is the work of our lifetimes, of our businesses, of our careers, is finding out who we are, what feeds our soul, what our purpose is, what we're put here to do. So this is an evolution, right? It's not like you wake up one day and you get it and you write and you stick with that forever. You wake up one day and you have an idea. And I call these my Billie Jean lights. Have we ever had this conversation? Um,
I don't think so.
okay, so real quick on Billie Jean lights. So this is how I look at it. You wake up one day, you don't really know what you're going to do. You know where you want to go, you know what you want to be, but you maybe can't see the whole path laid out before you. But you can see the next step. So you take it. And if you remember that Billie Jean video, the Michael Jackson video from the 80s, right, where he's walking on the sidewalk and he takes a step and the step lights up, right?
Yes.
And he takes another step and the step lights up. That's kind of how it is starting on your entrepreneurship journey. You don't know if it's the right step, but you take a step and the path lights up a little, and you take another step and the path lights up a little bit more. And you don't have to see all 100 or 1,000 or 1 million steps to take the next one and the next one and the next one. And the more confidence you step into this with, and the faster you go, the more the lights light up, and then it starts to almost feel like a runway, and
Yeah.
you're just ready to take off. And that's how I know I'm on the right path, is when things become easier or the next step illuminates and I just know. Um, it's, again, it's an evolution. I'm still figuring it out. Some days I think, wow, this is the right client for me. And then I realize through conversation that they're not the right client for me. Happened to me just this morning. We can talk about that if you like. And it's really interesting to have the space
Mhm.
mentally, the time, the freedom to figure all of this out. Because when you're in a 9 to 5, and let's face it, it's never 9 to 5, it's like 7 to 6
Right.
and hours on the weekends while you're checking email, you don't have the mental space to think about, is this aligned to my values? Is this what I want to be doing? Right? It's the next deadline, it's the next accomplishment, the next certification, whatever it is, and you don't really have the time to explore that. And that's what I love about entrepreneurship, that I get to learn every single day.
Yes, I love that. And you're absolutely right. I told my buddy BJ, she's also one of the speakers as well. And I told her I didn't realize how much of like I put a lot of stuff to the side that I love to do. Like for example, I do spoken word and I like to play the guitar and some other stuff, but I just didn't have time to lean into that creative space when I was working, you know, 12 hours. Like you said, it's never really a 9 to 5, right? It's more like 7 to 6, 7 to 7.
Mhm.
But then once I became an entrepreneur again, and I was able to start setting my own schedule. Now, mind you, I work long hours. I think we all do.
Mhm.
But it was like, okay, but I can block off time right here to just sit and write because you know what? I control my schedule. I have, some say in how my day is going to look now. And so, yeah, it's just really a great space to be in. And so I guess for like women who are like right on the edge of okay, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna take the leap, what would you say to her, like any advice?
So focus on sales first before you focus on anything else,
Yes.
because sales is what's going to bring the money into your business. If you don't know what you're selling, you're not ready to leave. If you
Mhm.
don't know how to sell, you're not ready to leave. Figure that out first, because your savings will never last as long as you think. Uh, but you've got to focus on the sales. And if you don't want to sell, you probably want to keep working for somebody else for a while, because most of entrepreneurship, at least when you start, is sales. And
Yes.
that was a tough lesson for me to learn. I'm still learning it. But it is crucial that you know what you're selling and how to sell it, who you're selling to.
Mhm.
Um, I would also say that, you know, you can build your plans for the future in stealth mode. You don't have to tell everybody what you're doing. You just do it. I used to think about, I have to be careful how I say this. Have you ever seen that movie Sleeping with the Enemy?
I haven't seen it.
Okay,
No.
so there was this movie, I think it was back in like the 90s. It was Julia Roberts. She's married to this man who's very abusive, and she's plotting her escape, right? She decides that she's going to run away from him, leave him. And so she has like this whole life set up for herself. When she finally leaves, she learns how to swim and she learns how to do all these things like in secret so that she can leave him and set up another life somewhere else. And I used to think about that movie a lot when I was trapped in a bad job, because it was, okay, I'm going to be all smiles and happy, right? But behind the scenes, I'm building another life for myself.
Mm,
And so, smile and nod, fellas, like they say in that cartoon, right? But behind the scenes, I was always turning into, what am I going to build?
mhm.
Where am I going to go next? And I think that's an important thing for folks to do, is to make sure that you've got the soil prepared for where you're planning to plant yourself next.
Yes, absolutely. And I learned a valuable lesson with the sales piece, because for so long I didn't really want to be the face of my company. I was hoping I could just be like, behind the scenes, let me put out some graphics and, have somebody else talk. But you're absolutely right. Like when it comes to sales, people want to see you, they want to know who they're buying from, and they want to know that, exactly what you're selling, and that you have a good grasp on, okay, these are the results that you're going to get as a result. So yeah, it's so important to know what you're selling to. I guess one other thing too, just going back to the authenticity piece, right, and really leaning into your strengths. um, do you feel like people can be authentic in a way that they can't when they're working for another organization? Hopefully that question made sense. I don't know if it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think in corporate jobs, they want you to be a certain way, right? They want you to fit the mold. They base performance metrics, they base promotions, they base pay on how well do you stay within these lines,
Mhm.
right? And they don't always define the lines for you until you step outside of them.
Right.
And then they want you to go right back. They still won't tell you where they are, except that you stepped here and you stepped wrong, right? Now you go back and try again, but don't get outside the lines that we're not going to define for you. And I always felt very I don't know what the right word is, confined, but also just boxed in, right? This is your job, this is your role. We don't support you learning about this other thing that has nothing to do with your job. It was always a battle or a
Mhm.
struggle to be anything other than this thing they said I was in that moment, in that role, or on that team or whatever. And that's not everybody's experience, but it was definitely my experience. And in this world, in this entrepreneurial world, you can be whoever you want, but you have to be it consistently.
Mm,
So you better pick something that aligns pretty close to who you really are, because if you've got to show up every day as somebody you're not, that's going to be damaging to you. It's going to be damaging to your work. It's going to be damaging to your clients. You won't attract the right people to work with, but also you have to be consistently you. And
mm,
if you're going to evolve, that needs to be very, it needs to be internal first, and you need to make it transparent. It's a very vulnerable thing
mm,
to be out here on our own, depending, just having faith that the right people will find us to work with us. But it's so important. One of the people that I follow very closely, her name is Arlen Hamilton. She's a venture capitalist. And she has this phrase that you have to be who you are, so the people that are looking for you can find you.
oh, I love that.
And it's just that, to me, is just such a powerful mantra, and one I go back to a lot when I feel like I'm being asked to be something I'm not, and I realize something isn't a very good fit for me, because then the people who are looking for me won't be able to find me. And I want the people that are looking for me
Yes. I love that. That was powerful. Can you say that quote one more time? I just want to make sure I have
Yes,
it in
you
my
bet.
brain.
So I have to attribute it to Arlen Hamilton because she is the author of the quote, but she says, "Be who you are, so the people who are looking for you can find you."
Be who you are so that people who are looking for you can find you. That is powerful. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I'm definitely going to keep that one. And I hope everybody listening, you hold on to that quote as well, because it's really powerful. So I guess, Amy, the only other question I have for you is, where can we learn more about you? Like, can we follow you on social media? What's your website? Any projects you're working on that people can be a part of?
Oh, so many things, MJ. So you can find me at leadatanylevel.com. New website should be up any day. And the best place to follow me is on LinkedIn at Amy C. Waninger. You'll get sick of me on LinkedIn, but you'll love it. I'm there a lot and I spend a lot of time there. But yeah, there's all kinds of ways that people can work with me and reach out. I'm happy to help answer any questions anybody has about me or my business or my experience, because this is not something that I did on my own. I reached out to people and said, what do I do next? And how do I start? And I knew less than nothing, because most of the stuff that I knew was wrong when I started. And there were kind people all along the way who helped me and guided me and encouraged me. And so I'm happy to be that for someone else.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And yeah, I hope everyone listening, you take some of these golden nuggets and you feel inspired to start your journey. But everything you said, it really resonated with me. And I just appreciate you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. One of the other things that I love about being an entrepreneur is the people that I meet.
Yes.
I worked with good people before, but nothing like the people I've met since I've been on the outside. And so thank you so much for inviting me.